to the She Leads podcast. I'm your host, Adrienne Garland, CEO and founder of She Leads Media, a global media company dedicated to the advancement of women leaders and entrepreneurs worldwide. I'm also an adjunct professor at NYU and Rice University, where I teach on the topic of entrepreneurship. I'm a mom to two wonderful young men and married to my best friend from college. Join me each week as I dive into raw conversations with remarkable, uncompromising, and inspirational women entrepreneurs and leaders. My hope is that these conversations and their advice will encourage you to put yourself out there and gain the visibility that you and all women deserve. We're all about stripping away the sugar-coated conversations and moving boldly in the direction of our magnificent dreams. For far too long, women have been conditioned to soften their words, modify their actions, and show up in the world to conform to outdated at best and harmful at worst cultural norms and ideals. Why? To keep those who are outside of the power structures from gaining power, prestige, wealth, and influence. This has prevented women from being recognized and respected as the powerful leaders that we truly are. The She Leads podcast is here to shine the light on all the incredible women, to encourage us to show up, speak up, and showcase the amazing work we do. Speak with confidence about the innovative and transformational thoughts that we have, and celebrate the positive impact that we are making in this world, both personally and professionally. So let's do this. Let's lead. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the She Leads podcast. I am so excited to welcome my next guest. Her name is Quinn Conyers, and she's an author of 2 books with over 18 years of in-person and virtual keynote speaking, event hosting, and professional Emcee experience. She takes pride in giving mental makeovers as she positions entrepreneurs and leaders on how to leverage luxury language to be super effective in their leadership position. She has powerfully presented for organizations such as Walmart, Nike, UPS, PayPal, Visa, and the National Association of Women Business Owners, NAWBO, to name just a few. Welcome to the She Leads podcast, Quinn.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here.
Well, I am excited to speak to you today, especially the fact that the 10th annual She Leads Live conference is coming up in just a few days. So my head is very much in the speaker and event production mode. So I just want to give you a chance to let everybody know who you are and how did you get into being an event MC? That is very cool.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I know that the conference is going to be absolutely amazing. Like you said, my name is Quinn Conyers, and I really transform average events into epic experiences as a professional corporate event MC, as well as a compelling keynote speaker. And, you know, how it really started was in college, and we were all given a syllabus. And on that syllabus, as a freshman, you don't really have a lot of decision on which classes you're going to take. So there was one class that had everybody freaking out, and it was Intro to Public Speaking. And I was the only one like, give me the microphone. What is the problem going on here, right? So when I took that class, I quickly noticed that when I talked, people listened. And I'm only 5 foot tall, but when I open up my mouth, I become a 5-foot giant. And I was able to capture and keep the attention. And a lot of my professors were like, you're a really good speaker. So it really kind of started there. So I was just speaking here. And then I was involved with several leadership positions on campus that required me to speak. And again, more and more people are like, you're a really good speaker. You know how to command the crowd. And then as I began to kind of like study speaking, became a speech communications major, and ended up getting my master's in, a communication field as well. I noticed that there were different branches of speaking. So not only was I doing workshops and speaking, I also began to dabble into hosting a little bit. But honestly, it wasn't until the pandemic that my hosting and emceeing, I began to make a priority, because keynote speakers and workshop presenters come a dime a dozen. But having a really good MC made me be a unicorn within the speaking space. So I decided to put some of my energy and effort more to taking some of the pressure off of busy event planners who have a million and one things to do, and I can handle attendee engagement. So I'll stop there because I can go on and on, but it started in college, and then I began to kind of really branch out and explore diversity within the speaking industry. And that's led me to keynoting, workshop presenting, facilitating, moderating, and all that good stuff.
Oh, this is amazing. And do you have a podcast, Quinn?
I did. It was a lot of work.
I think I might want to
bring it back. Yeah. I might bring it back, but I did at one point, and then I might bring it back. And if I do it again, it's going to be about speaking to business women about how to use speaking as a strategy to grow their business. So if I do it again, Adrienne,
yes.
Yeah, you'll be the first to know.
I love that. And it's so funny because I definitely want to dive into how powerful it is for women to speak on stages. And yes, while, there are many people who want to do keynoting and speaking, it's something that women are still, I think, a little intimidated by. You have carved out an incredible niche, and I want to dive into, how can maybe some other people follow in your footsteps and learn from you. But I actually find it fascinating that when you went to college was where you first discovered that you had this powerful voice and that you could, command attention and everything like that. Because I was thinking to myself that you must have known that you had these qualities growing up. And so I was waiting to hear a story about how from when you were, 5 years old and telling everybody, you go here, you go here. So I'm actually surprised. Was there any inkling when you were younger that this was, just something that was very comfortable for you?
My mother told me that when I was 2, I could talk in complete sentences. I mean, like say no, thank you, or yes, I want that. When people were still kind of baby talking it, I was complete sentences. But that didn't ring a bell. And I think if I look back, I probably could find some instances. I think it was always there, but I think that speaking, you could get away with not doing it, right? Like, I don't think that it was one of those things where it probably was some instances, if I look back and thought about it, that was definitely like, oh yeah. But I think college, it was so profound because everyone was like running away from the microphone. And I was the only one like, give me the microphone. But I've always been told that she's well-spoken. She's articulate. She can really express herself. And I don't know if it was so much of an external use of and command of communication skills, but internally, I was very sure on what I wanted and what I didn't want. I knew what I liked and what I didn't like. So it wasn't like, well, I'm not sure. I was always very sure in some of the things that I wanted to do and I didn't want to do. Where a lot of people were like kind of like going with the flow, or maybe they were followers and not leaders. I'm like, why are you doing that? I'm not doing that. So I had a voice, but I don't know if I was speaking, if that makes any sense. I've always had a voice, but I don't know if I was deliberate and intentional about my communication style until college. And I mean, if you ask people who knew me when I was younger, they might say something differently. For me though, the aha and eye opener was definitely college.
Oh, that's so interesting. And then how did you sort of get into being asked to all of these incredible companies? How were you invited to speak and to moderate and to do everything that you do, emceeing and such?
It's interesting because I've always offered the MC hosting role. I just really had a tough time convincing people that they needed me, right? So it was like, oh, we would get somebody internal, or we don't have the budget for that, so I'm going to do it. And it was a really tough time. So I always had the talent of speaking and emceeing, but I didn't know the technique of selling it as a business. And what happened was, when the pandemic hit, it was, definitely affected a lot of speakers. negatively, but it really boosted my career. So again, it was something that I always offered. And when the pandemic happened, there was this app called Clubhouse. So I don't know if everybody remembers Clubhouse. I mean, it seems a little further ago, but people were just hosting rooms. And I was on there hosting rooms, and somebody asked me about Clubhouse. And I got on there and I was talking about using speaking, how to present virtually. And it really just kind of took off. I would come into Clubhouse, and within 2 minutes, I had a couple of hundred people in my room. Like, I mean, it just really took off for me. And, the world wasn't just shut down for the everyday people like you and I. It was shut down for everyone. So there was a woman on there. I never forget. Her name was Felicia Hatcher, and she was amazing. And she's like, hey, Quinn, like, I've been listening to a couple of your rooms. We have been doing events in person for years. Obviously, it's the pandemic. We have to go virtual. And I really believe that you will be a great MC for our event. Can we talk about hiring you? And I'm like, absolutely. So we didn't work together right away. I ended up doing some work with them a little bit later, but that kind of sparked my idea, and everyone else, all the other planners were having the same issue. We've been doing this event 10, 20, 30 years. We now have to go virtual. It's 2 days. It's 3 days. I'm nervous. And honestly, I just got passed around. It was like, oh my God, Quinn's a great MC. So I just began to lean into it. And I just realized that it was a skill set that a lot of people just didn't have. They can rock the mic for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, but how do you keep somebody's attention for multiple days, right? So I just began to lean into it. And then other people, honestly, I wish I can say, Adrienne, that it was me, but it really was audience members. It was sponsors. It was the event planners confirming and affirming my gift in this area. They're like, listen, we've had MCs before, we've had moderators before, but the way you held this event together, the way that you were able to stall when somebody couldn't get on Zoom, the way that you were able to keep our attention, in a virtual world was nothing like I've ever saw. So I kept getting these raving testimonials. I'm about 185 testimonials on LinkedIn alone from MCing and keynoting, that I decided that I'm going to lean into MCing because all of my friends were in the keynote space. So it was just it was a choice. It was a decision to kind of lean in and hone in on this craft. And I just believe that the more I believed in a professional MC, the more my confidence was contagious to other people to hire me. So, and then I just got a lot of referrals too. I'm not going to lie. A lot of people are like, oh my God, Quinn's great. You need to have her at her conference, especially for multi-day events. So it worked really well in my favor.
This is it's almost like a master class in what to do, right? So discovering what your passion is, how that intersects with what your gifts are. And then you've said it a couple of times, like you have this solid confidence inside that you are, and you're very decisive. Like, this is what I want. I am going all in on this. I have evidence that it's working. So let me just do more of what's working. And then being able to have that credibility, that proof point that you truly are an expert and a thought leader in a certain area, and then just keep building. And you are getting referrals because of how excellent you are, right? And so I think that everybody listening can think about that and say, where do your gifts and talents intersect with your passion? And then just because, other people aren't necessarily doing it, in fact, that's actually an indication that you should, right? Because if everybody else is doing something, it's going to be very difficult for you to stand out at all. So I love how, even though the space, and especially like you said, during the pandemic, when like everybody was online, everybody was doing virtual events, what is that thing that can differentiate you from the rest? So good. Really good.
Yeah. And I believe that when you are, a lot of times you don't know. That's the thing. You need other people. The quiet confidence that I have, or maybe it's not so quiet, is it was other people affirming and affirming. If you do something so naturally, let's just say like you're a really good cook and you have 3 ingredients, you can make a Thanksgiving meal out of 3 ingredients. People are like, oh my God, this is amazing. Oh, it is? You don't know. So a lot of times it's just about doing your thing, and then what you're naturally gifted and talented at will emerge. And then I always say 4 people can't lie, right? So if you get one compliment, oh, great, thanks. A second compliment, thank you. The third person, oh, I appreciate you. But if a fourth person tells you that you are gifted in speaking, or you're a good writer, or you're a good singer, or your cupcakes are amazing, you can't ignore that fourth person. And a lot of times that's how it happens. It is, you have this thing, you do it, you don't even realize how great you are at it. And it takes other people affirming and confirming you. And then that's when you have to do the work to polish and perfect your gift, because we can't rely on talent alone.
No. Oh, so good. So good. So what are, you've seen this world change, right? From live events to all of a sudden everybody was in the virtual world, coming back to live events. But I see that things are different. It's more difficult to get people to come out and show up, especially for a multi-day event. And it's odd to me because I think that people are craving connection, and yet we're like getting so used to doing this online. What are some of the differences that you see between holding multi-day events in the virtual world versus live? And, do you have any just insights, or like, what are you seeing?
I'm seeing that, number one, that there is a lot of noise right now. There's an event for everything. So if you're a women entrepreneur, there's an event for you. If you're a women entrepreneur with 2 eyeballs, there's an event for you. If you're a woman entrepreneur with 2 eyeballs and hair on your head, there's an event for you. So the amount of events have increased, which means that there are several people trying to get that attendee to attend their event, right?
Yeah.
So there is more competition. There's more people doing it, which means that if you are hosting an event or you're planning an event, then you got, number one, you have to start sooner, right? Like you can't just throw up an event and expect people to kind of show and pay within 2 months. So starting your marketing and your outreach earlier. And then number two, I think that really focusing in on attendee experience. And a lot of these people are bored. They're not coming because they don't see the differentiator. They don't see what's different. They don't want to come to a snooze fest. It's the same speakers, or the topics or the titles are not intriguing. So it just seems like something else. So I think that it comes to that organizer or that person being creative and different in a way, and prioritizing attendee experiences and having several touch points with them. So before, you might throw out an email or a post and you'll see the signups start rolling in. Whereas now you might have to do, let's say, a series on LinkedIn, a series on YouTube. You might have to send, before, maybe you had to send 3 email newsletters. Now you got to send 7 newsletters. Yeah. So people need more touch points, and they need to know the differentiator, right? If I come to this conference, why is it different, special, and unique from every other business, customer service, CEO conference that's out there? Yeah. Number 3, I think that people definitely need to invest in what I say, diverse thought and leadership, and not just in gender or sex or nationality, but, if you are looking to reach a multi-generational audience, everybody can't be over the age of 65, right? Yeah. Is there a 20-year-old speaker out there? Is there a 40-year-old speaker out there? So just some diversity within the speakers, and then engaging your sponsors. I think that a lot of times we just kind of have them with a slot and get creative with their sponsorship dollars. So I just see a lot of people like, oh, you have sponsors, we're going to give them 5 minutes and to talk, and they're going to play a video. But a lot of times asking yourself, can we highlight the sponsors in a unique way that can cause connection between sponsor and attendee? And last but not least, I'm going to say it until I turn blue in the face, is if you're not sure of this, this is where you get with a experienced professional MC, because we have ideas a dime a dozen on how to increase engagement, how to kind of drive up some revenue sales, how to make sure that some of the content that's being posted on why people should come is interesting. I know I do event elevation videos as part of my packages. So you get to know me before we even meet. So there's certain little things that have to be done, but it's just a lot more competition and noise. And knowing that, you just have to give yourself more space, more time. And then you have to really be able to verbalize your value and articulate the awesomeness of your event. And most people don't know how to do that. They're like, it's great. It's women. It's business owners. You should come. That's not
Yeah.
enough anymore. People want
It's
more.
not enough. Yeah. And Quinn, you're like hitting that nail on the head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because I have seen exactly everything that you're saying. And as an event producer for the She Leads conference for the last 10 years, I will have to say that it was sort of easy enough to say, hey, women entrepreneurs, come out and listen to these amazing speakers who are there for you. You will definitely walk away and learn something. That is not enough anymore. And we have had to 10, 15, 20 times the amount of just content that we are putting out in order to attract that same size audience. And as an event producer, you put so much of your heart and soul into curating this incredible experience.
Sure.
And it's that piece, which was always, I would say, sort of my focus, right? And putting together this thing and creating this thing and then saying, oh, see, here it is. And having that be enough to attract people. You're right. It doesn't work anymore. And, I would say that even for a 200-person, 300-person conference, you have to start planning that a full year in advance, because we started planning this year 6-8 months in advance, and we have really been challenged by it. So it's almost like Emcee doesn't encapsulate everything that you do. It's much
You
more
are
than
so
that.
right.
Yeah, because you are a strategist.
Correct. So I have played around with my title a lot. The reason why I say MC is because it does hit the tip of the iceberg. But if you talk to me and I get to know about your event, you will see why I emerge as what I call an event experience partner. That's how I
Yeah.
can see myself. And MCing is just one of the things that I do as your event experience partner. I
Yeah.
also believe kind of what you said in regards to the timing, but I also believe a huge strategy that I believe that event planners and organizers are overlooking is just the language that they're using to market the event. And I think that we have been so taught on the demographics. If you're a woman business owner who wants to grow their business, come to this conference. And that really speaks to the demographics. I think one of the things that I'm really good at when I work with, my planner partners, because I consider them partners, is how can we tap into the psychographics, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like not if you're a business owner, but if you are a business owner who feels alone and isolated and you're looking for community and you're looking for other women who are making at least $250,000 or more, this is the conference for you, which is different from, are you a business owner who is just starting out and you're trying to figure out how to get your first corporate contract or your first consulting opportunity? That's different versus, are you an e-commerce entrepreneur looking to sell more of your products and services online? So I think that we have to understand that entrepreneurs, business owners, audiences, attendees, employees are not all created equal. And what's happening is we're using this blanketed, what I call weak words and discount dialect to market and promote our conference, our meeting, our experience, and it's falling on deaf ears because people want to feel like you are talking to me. Like I want to see myself. So if you say to me, if you're a business owner looking to sell more products and services online, count me out, right?
That's
Because
not
that's
you.
not what I'm trying to do. Right? However, if you are an entrepreneur, and it is a fine line because you want to do it that it's authentic and not gimmicky. Like we're going to teach you how to make your first 6 figures, right? Because everybody's saying that as well. But I have found that the more you're direct, the more that you're isolating your ideal attendee, the more you're speaking to their heart is where you're going to attract. And I think that's the part we're missing. It's too generic in the marketing. It's too, we're going to help you. And at this point, we don't want to be helped. We don't.
Yeah.
That language is weak. We want to be accelerated. We want to grow.
Yes.
We want to skyrocket. We want to connect and convene. Like there's just different things. And I think that a lot of organizers are so bogged down with, and I get it, food and beverage minimums, getting the venue, getting the right experience, that attendee experience is the back burner. And that's the priority for me.
Yes, I love this so much. Truly, I have spoken to you, and I'm so impressed by everything that you do. If somebody wants to go down this path, right? What are some of the things that you would suggest? Because I do think that speakers who are focused on the attendee and providing them with the information that they need, right? Very them centric to help them. I think those type of speakers are the ones that would make an amazing MC because they understand the audience. So if someone wanted to sort of pursue this as a path, what would be some of the things that you would suggest? Because listening to you, it is clear to me, first of all, you have a ton of experience, but you do this very naturally. This is just who you are, right? So if it's not just who they are, what are some of the things that you might suggest that you could offer to someone like, hey, if you want to pursue being an added value MC that specializes in, getting attendees to engage at the maximum that they can, or whatever the language is. I'm definitely not as tripping over my words as a podcast host. But, just someone that sort of wants to go down this path, what are some of the first steps that someone could take to move into this world?
I think the first step to me is realizing that being a speaker and being an MC requires two different type of speaking skill sets. And I think that the misconception is that if I speak well, then I can MC well. It pulls on a different energy. It pulls on a different psychological safety. It pulls on a different part of communication style. So I say that they're similar, but they're not the same. They're in the same family, but they're more cousins than they are husband and wife or brother and sister, right?
Yeah.
So I think that that's the misconception. People are like, oh, I can speak, so I can definitely MC. That's not true. Right? So, because it's a different thing. If you are speaking, you are holding, keeping someone's attention from anywhere from 30 minutes to about 90 minutes. Whereas if you're emceeing and this event is from 8 to 5, you are on from 8 to 5, right?
Yeah.
Because if the sound goes out, if a speaker is late, if a sponsor's video won't play, that's not the responsibility of the event organizer. That's the responsibility of an MC, right? And if it's not a professional MC, the MC is going to throw it back on the event organizer. And the job of the MC is to take things off the plate and be what I call the insurance policy, or be the event GPS, making sure that the audience knows and they're guided throughout the entire meeting or event. So the first thing is understanding that it's two separate skill sets. Number two, it's finding where your MC superpower lies. I happen to love corporate events, right? I love conferences, workshops, professional development. I know some people who do really well at wedding MCs. I know some people who do really well at galas or award celebrations. Now, I'll do galas and award celebrations as well, but I really don't like to compete against alcohol and dancing. I want to be to people, right? So if you're thinking about award celebrations and things like that, those are usually events that happen after 5, after 6. Still fun, but not as educational in nature. So it's almost like exploring where your MC superpower lies. And, and also too, are you a good day one MC? Like you can MC for one day, but the idea of MCing for multiple days might just zap your energy, right?
Yeah.
Like your extrovertedness can't take all of that. Whereas I specialize in multi-day events. And that's when I always suggest as an event organizer, you can probably wing it, even though I'm not a fan of that, for one day. But if you're having a 2-day or 3-day event, you want someone to keep the energy high. So I think the second part of that is exploring where your MC superpower lies, because there's so many different types of events. And then also 3, and I'll be quiet after this, I promise, is figuring out where your MC services would be suited best in which industry. And I usually say wherever you have had experience at, those are the type of events that you would potentially want to host. So for example, I have experience being an entrepreneur. Last time I checked, I was a woman, right? So for me, I love hosting events of women leaders, women entrepreneurs, because that's been my experience. Now, let's say you're an engineer. You might do very well hosting engineering conferences, engineering meetings, right? Let's say you did very, very well in the customer service industry or sales industry. That was your background. You might go after sales conferences, sales events. So those are like the three things that I would tell people if they want to kind of embark, whether either going all in as MC or offering MC as an added on speaking services to explore those three areas.
I love this. This is like a niche within a niche. And the advice that you just gave there is absolute gold, because I agree with you. You want to be able to engage people in the audience that you can completely relate to, and that you can sort of see their energy and feel their energy and know where to take them so that they do keep their energy up. Because it is, as an attendee, it can get exhausting even when you're just sitting there, right? It gets uncomfortable to sit for long periods of time. And, as you're talking and feeling your energy through the screen, through Riverside, I am wondering to myself a very practical question. How do you keep your physical and mental energy up over multi-day in-person conferences? Because I know that that's tough.
I don't know about everybody else because I am a natural born extrovert, and that's like 20% of the population. Like, it's not normal. Like, I am not normal. I've embraced my unicorn-ish, so I understand that. People give me fuel. I love people. I love to serve. But that could drain someone. And that's when, I just came back from an event, I'll give you this because this is the best way I can describe it with a story through like how I do it, because I've realized that I'm just not normal, right? And I've accepted that. But it is about putting yourself in a position where you thrive, right? And a lot of times I'm hired, yes, because I have the energy for multiple days. That's my superpower. But also, too, it's exhausting to other people. So I ended up doing this event in Chicago. It was amazing. The event organizer couldn't thank me enough. She organized and she hosted last year. And she's like, I just didn't have it. She's like, by day 2, I looked disheveled. I looked like I just wasn't what I needed to be doing. And then because I was the organizer, when I was off stage for a second, I was pulled in another direction. I just couldn't do it. So it's almost like, are you operating in your strengths? Are you making desperate decisions? And people don't want to hear that, right? Like, I'm like, Is this a desperate decision? Are you doing this because, of budget constraints? Are you doing this because of X, Y, and Z? But at the same time, you want to hire your weakness, or you want to hire something that's going to take something off your plate. Because at the end of the day, if anything else is wrong, your attention has to go there, which pulls energy. So now you're like, oh my gosh, we have a 5-person panel. 2 people are stuck in the airport in Florida. It's now a 3, but then you have to now go on stage and introduce the next speaker. And in your mind, you're trying to put out this fire of the other 2 people who were supposed to be there. So I think it's about managing your energy and knowing that when ish hits the fan, because it will, event planning is one of the top 5 most stressful jobs. You got to hire help. Like, you have to bring in other people. You have to partner with other people that if it does go crazy, you can worry about why there's no vegan or kosher meals or gluten-free meals. True story. This has happened. People had diet restrictions, and for whatever reason, they didn't get it. So everybody was eating beef, and you got 20 people who were vegans who are losing their crap. But then you have to go on stage and introduce somebody. So I think it's about being proactive and managing your energy, and even working out some deals. There's places where it's like they might have didn't have my fee, but I believed in the mission and we worked it out because I knew that this person was doing a great event and they didn't have the energy to spread around. And that's the hard part of events, and that's the reality of it.
Yeah. And yes, we all as entrepreneurs must hire our weaknesses, right? It's something that we're so reluctant to do because we want to do it all. And I think that there is the reality of budget constraints, especially with some of the astronomical costs of, food and venue and all of the other things that, quite frankly, the virtual events don't have. And I think that that's why so many people have, seen this virtual world as an opportunity to leverage because they don't have to worry about all of those different live in-person costs and everything that you were talking about with travel delays and everything like that. Virtual events are easier, but they're also nowhere near as engaging. They can be, but the energy exchange that happens when people are in the room together, I just feel like cannot be beat. And I love the convenience of being able to meet people online, but at least for She Leads and the She Leads media world and She Leads Live, we're going to do everything that we can to continue to show up in person. So Quinn, I feel like I could talk to you forever. And I think that you probably could with your energy and enthusiasm and your intelligence and your just generous spirit and everything. And I just really appreciate you being here and speaking to all of us on the She Leads podcast today. How can people get in touch with you, hire you, and just connect with you?
Yeah, the best way to connect with me is on LinkedIn. I'm Quinn Conyers on LinkedIn, and we can connect whether you're interested in exploring a career in emceeing or speaking, or you have an event that's happening in 2025. It is not too early to pin me down, either as a speaker or as an MC. I know that February, March, April conference season starts to pick back up. I mean, it's starting to slow down. People are having their events in October and probably like up to mid-November. But then there's Women's History Month. There's Black History Month. There's you're just having a conference, right? That you want a dynamic speaker or energetic MC. I would say connect with me on LinkedIn. And the reason why I'm sending you to LinkedIn, because you can go down the rabbit hole on me. Once you go to my LinkedIn, learn a little bit more about who I am, what I do, and then there will be some directions on there on how to connect with me, beyond the LinkedIn platform. But I believe that if you want to have a mind-blowing and not mediocre event, it comes down to having the right people in place. And one of those people that I believe is often overlooked is the MC. I believe an MC can make or break your event and do so much more than what you think in regards to just introducing people. So the earlier that you can lock in an MC and make that person your official partner, I promise you the amount of things and creativity that can add to your event will rock your world and blow your mind.
Amazing. Just simply incredible. My gosh. Thank you so much for spending time with me here today. I really appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
This and all of our episodes are brought to you by the She Leads Podcast Network, the podcast network for women, by women. Thanks so much for listening to the She Leads podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support us, please share it with others, make a personalized post about what you took away on social media, and please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. This helps our guests and our show to continue to gain visibility and traction. To learn more about how She Leads Media helps women to gain visibility, you can follow us on Instagram at She Leads Media, or you can head on over to sheleadsmedia.com. If you'd like to network with me and other amazing women, don't forget to join us each year for the She Leads Live conference. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon. This is the She Leads Podcast Network.